Okay, welcome everybody. I am super excited that you guys are here, and I'm very excited to introduce this cruise planning stuff to all you. I want to say that this presentation is going to be focused on cruise planning, right? We're not going to go into inventory management or any of the other modules. We might have a peek in them, but not much. So the presentation, it's going to be broken up into two parts. Part one is going to be some slides kind of explaining how the system works. And then we're going to have a bit of a break. And then part two, we're going to actually go into the application and run through things so you can actually see it in the site. So it's going to be kind of a balance. You know, there's a lot going on in here. And so it'll be a balance of showing you the capabilities, but not overwhelming you with things. But I ask if I go too fast, or if you've got questions along the way, please just shout them out, okay? I'm not going to be able to see people if you're raising your hand. So just turn on your mic or turn on your mic and ask me a question. And then finally, keep in mind as we're going through this is a work in progress, right? Nothing is set in stone. And so if there's something that seems off, or you're like, oh, well, we need this for our organization, let's talk about it, right? Write that stuff down and we can talk about it, and we can talk about how we might be able to implement that so it works for you. Okay, so let's get started. The goals here, we're gonna have an overview of MFP. And I want you to understand how workflows work. The MFP is kind of built around what they call workflows. And it took me a while to get my head around that. And now that I get it, it makes a little bit more sense. And then an overview of the cruise planning capabilities. Then, like I said, we're gonna have that break, and then we're gonna learn to navigate through MFP and then test the generic cruise planning workflow. So let's get moving. History of MFP, I'm not even going to go in detail here. You can read this slide if you're new, but I've had this slide on many presentations before. But it was built for the Netherlands and the UK oceanographic research programs. So it's specifically built for academic research, and it started as this one little thing to track for kind of more inventory management, and then it grew and grew and grew with more integrated modules into what we have today. So this is a list of the companies, the countries, I should say, that are using this for their academic research fleets. NIAS and NERC, Germany, we've got the Australians in the Australian Antarctic program, the Saudi Arabians, I can't remember who all these people are, but a bunch of other Europeans. Norway is coming online, JAMSTEC is also coming online. I showed this one also at the last presentation. And so these are all the different modules that are a part of MFP. The green modules, those modules that are outlined in green there, those are ones that we have implemented and are ready to go. The yellow ones we're actively working on, and then the red ones we really haven't done much with yet. And I'm hoping we'll be able to integrate those soon as we get these other things going. So the take-home message for this one is, one, like I said, we're not done. And two is everything is integrated, right? It's a centralized place for information to be stored and accessed by all the stakeholders involved in the cruise, right? So you've got scientists, captains, facility operators, cruise planners, schedulers, everyone, administrators. They can all go in, and it's all in one location where everybody can get what they need. Okay. So what is a workflow? A workflow in MFP is simply a series of steps a project must follow to be completed, right? So each step of the workflow is triggered as a user progresses through the process. And then, so think about like a workflow for within STRS, you have to have, or within our system, you have to, the PI must submit their ship time request before we can schedule, right? That's somewhat of a workflow, right? So each step in the workflow is triggered as a user progresses along, and then steps must have precursors, or can have, I should say, precursors. So steps that must happen first. They can have notifications, they can have deadlines, and they can have specific people assigned to them, okay? So let's think of big picture now, right? Big picture USARF or any cruise planning really. What are the basic steps that need to happen for us to be able to plan a cruise? So first, we need to know that the scientists need ship time, right? So they complete their form and they submit their form. So this is a big notice. No longer do we have STR. The STR is now the SME. So SME stands for Ship Time and Marine Equipment Form or application. So the PI submits their SME, and we know that this step is kind of in the whole UNOLS community, right? It's not specific to an institution. They submit their SME and they could be asking for whatever ship. So then after it's submitted, then that triggers, once an SME is submitted, it triggers the next thing where a scheduler can take that SME and they can put it on a scheduler. So again, the schedulers create all their various drafts and this, that, or the other, and they finally come up with a published schedule. And again, this is at the UNOLS community level, right? We're all doing this all together. So once they hit publish and a project is put on a published schedule, then we can plan the cruise, right? So this is just a short list here. I know there's loads and loads more of cruise planning, but this section here is institutional specific, right? Scripps asks a little different questions than the Savannah might. Blue Heron's planning is different than the Thompsons, right? So this specific one is institutional specific. So you've done all your cruise planning, the cruise is completed, and what's our next step in the big picture is the post-cruise stuff, right? So we have PCARs that need doing, NDSF PCARs that need doing. There's, if the person had a diplomatic clearance and MSR, they would have to submit those forms, right? So, so those are kind of the 4 big steps, let's say, right? And so the way we are different than any other, did someone have a question? No, okay. So we're different than any other, we as in the US are different than any other institution that's out there that's using MFP. So all those other institutions like NERC, which is the UK, they have 2 ships. The PIs put in specific for those 2 ships, and there's one institution that runs those 2 ships, and so it's very limited number of people and ships. So we, on the other hand, are, we have these community functions where we schedule, as a community, right? And then it goes to institutional specific, and then at the end of the cruise, we go back to kind of for the PCAR, right? We go back to a community. And so these community steps, I will say, are generally fixed, right? And we need to fix them because we all have to be working on them together. And we also need, because we want to be able to report certain things. But this institutional step is the one that's we can modify per institution. Okay. So because we have to split it this way between community and institution, they have given us, this is a little bit confusing, but we have 2 workflows per project, right? So you have, oops, let me get here. So the initial, the SME and the scheduling, this is one workflow right here. And you have one ID, one SME ID for this section. And then once that SME is put on a published schedule, it gets a new number. Those numbers are related and linked in the system, but it does get a new number. And then these 2 sections are put together as a workflow, okay? Just keep that in the back of your head, not super important at the moment, but it confused me for a little while. Okay, so let's look now at this here, this specific institutional cruise planning, okay? So in an ideal world, well, let's break this down. So I should say the cruise planning section is broken down right now, is broken down into 3 sections. So there's a cruise planning, which has all the cruise participants and the questionnaire and all that sort of stuff. And then there's a cruise, and that's customizable per institution, right? And then we have the cruise itinerary is the second section, and that's, simply a way for the schedulers to go in and verify the dates and pretty much finalize their schedule for that cruise, okay? And then finally, the post-cruise which I said earlier is the PCARs, the MSR, EEZ reports, and all that, anything that needs to happen after the fact. And that too is fixed, right? Because everybody has to do that. So, and when I say fixed, I mean that it's not customizable on a per institution basis, but we could, if we as a community decide that it could be better a different way, we can change that, right? So I don't want you to think that things, when I say fixed, it's absolutely fixed, but we need to think of it as a community, and if it changes for everyone. Okay, so I will say in an ideal world, the developers would have come over here and we would have met with a couple institutions and put us all in a room, and we would have hashed out like what are the steps of a workflow, the cruise planning workflow, and they could have worked with one institution to do this and another institution to do that, but then COVID happened, and so we couldn't do that, right? So what I did, I went through as much cruise planning information as I could find online, and in the UNOS Cruise Planner and the WHOI Cruise Planner and anything, people's websites and all that sort of stuff to figure out what you guys did in experience. And so I came up with, the developers came up with what we're calling a generic cruise planning workflow, okay? And I just wanted to have some sort of starting point for everyone, so that you can, one, get an idea of what's going on, and two, figure out things that work and what doesn't work, and you can see where we need to go. So these are the items that are currently on our generic workflow. There's 2 steps with diplomatic clearance. One is just saying what states am I applying for diplomatic clearance, and it keeps track of their status. This is the submit diplomatic clearance, is where they can actually upload their forms. Radioisotope usage, so this is a separate step where it just lists the RSO and the primary user, and you can keep track of any radioisotope forms. Detailed cruise requirements form. Well, this is a cruise questionnaire. I'm looking for a better name. I don't know why I don't like cruise questionnaire, but if everyone loves cruise questionnaire, we can change it. And actually, I will say that each of these steps can be renamed in the system by institution, but I would love to keep as many as the same as possible, just to keep the user interface consistent, right? So, but we can talk about that. If you guys have brainstormings of a better name for that form, I would love to hear it. So there's an attachment section where some people can add whatever attachments they choose to, pictures of instrumentation or mooring outlines or anything like that. There's cruise planning meetings. There's actually 2 separate ones. UW asked for 2, and that is a date and you can upload any notes from those cruise planning meetings. You can upload a ship's deck plan, and as part of that, you can actually have your deck plan there that they can download and they can draw on and put it back up. Hazmat and rad waste. This is a step that's some folks seem interested in, some are not as interested in, but it's a way to keep track of the hazmats and the rads that's coming off your ship. And there's a specific notice in there that this is the PI's responsibility, but I think the people who are interested in it are trying to raise that red flag early to say, hey, this is your responsibility, right? And then cruise participants, of course, and then berthing plans.
Alice, before you move on, we have a question in the chat from Don Cucciara. Cruise configuration form? I'm not sure what he means by that. Don, would you like to ask?
Oh, cruise configuration form as a new name.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry, I tried to type it as fast as possible.
Gotcha, thank you.
Hey, Alice, I have a question.
Go for it.
What about facilities requests like winches, vans? Is there any plan to have any integration there?
Yes. We're still in the early phases of that. So those are part of questions that are on this detailed cruise requirements or the cruise questionnaire. There's questions in there about the vans, OBSIC, all of those facilities. And those questions are also a part of the SME. So the facilities should get alerted when the SMEs get submitted, eventually, I should say. In an ideal world, the facilities would get alerted when the SMEs are submitted and, you know, requesting their facility. And then as they go into this detailed cruise requirements form, there's more questions that are asked. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if I had a cruise where I was going to work with like the Marsam group at OSU, will this help facilitate that interaction for what equipment's needed and working with that facility?
That's what we're hoping, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool, thanks.
That is definitely in the plan, for sure. Okay, next one, where are we? Oh, right. So this workflow, I will say that it's customizable per institution. We put together this generic workflow, and I will say it's mostly based, because that's what I've mostly worked on, is bigger ships, steps that the bigger ships need to complete these, you know, difficult cruises, detailed cruises. And so this might be too much for the Blue Heron. And if that's the case, we can take out half these steps or all of these steps, and they could come up with something else, or the Savannah. So I want folks to know that right now it looks very global and ocean class centric, but we can change that or update it to your needs. Okay, so the cruise planning workflow template. So for each institutional workflow, an operator can decide which steps, like we just talked about, and what specific questions to ask, especially with regards to the portable equipment. And then they can also assign roles. So within your institution, you can assign project administrators, you can assign local planners and local support staff, and you can decide what those people can see and can do. And then for each step of the workflow, so that's the whole workflow right here, right? And then the second one, for each step, you can assign, say, who is responsible, and you can put multiple people. You can say that this step must happen before this step, or something like that, or this step can't happen before this step. You can set time rules, which is essentially due dates, and then you can create email notifications. So what does that look like? Oh, my mouse is going crazy. Come on, there it goes. Okay, this is a lot to see, but hopefully you can see it. So this is when you go to look at your template, your workflow template, this is what you see. So these are your roles. Let's go back actually.
Alice, we have a question in the chat from Solomon. What about post-cruise planning for data management?
We are happy to add steps for that. We don't have anything in there right now, but we talked about adding a step like where the text would go in and say, click, this was submitted to R2R kind of thing. But we haven't been there yet. So I'm happy to hear input on what those steps should be.
And then one other, maybe the steps of the workflow can be defined when you select time of a given vessel. So vessel specific, question mark?
Not sure I understand your question.
Would you like to ask it yourself? Yeah, there you go.
Hi, Alice. Yeah, you were saying that maybe some of the steps don't apply to smaller ships. This is
Right.
Ivan, by the way. So
Yeah.
I was curious, when you ask for time on on that smaller ship, then maybe those steps are automatically implemented because they pertain only to that ship.
Automatic, yes. So that's what happens, is that when a cruise is scheduled on a particular vessel, the workflow for that vessel gets implemented. So the system does all that in the background. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. It is specific. So if they request the Thompson, then the Thompson's workflow will be implemented. So on this screen, I wanted to show you setting workflow roles. So the roles, again, I don't want to overwhelm you here, but the project roles are over here on your left, right? You see this. And if you look here, these are actually set by the SME, right? The scientist writes in, or their cruise questionnaire if they get to that part. But they say this is the scientist, this is the chief scientist, or scientist, sorry, is the PI. Then we have the chief scientist and the science party technical lead, and they can have multiple people in those, but you as the operator don't have control of that. That comes directly from the SME. What you have control of are these right here: the project administrator, the local planner, and the local support staff. So I think how it's generally used are the project administrators kind of have they can see a lot and do a lot, where the local planners aren't necessarily, don't have their fingers in everything. Local planners might not need to know about the cruise, have access to the cruise participants, but they want to have access to other things. And then local support staff could be like administrative staff, or it's up to you and your organization how you want to break that down. But those are the roles that you can control per your institution.
Can you have more than one project administrator?
Yes, you can have more than one of any of those. So on the Thompson, we set it up where, so the Thompson is testing it right now, our system right now. And we set it up where Megan and Lauren, so they're kind of their port captain, and Lauren, who's their kind of head cruise planner, and their marine superintendent are the project administrators, and their local planners, I think, are all the marine technicians, and their support staff were more of the administrative levels. So it really doesn't, I mean, it's up to you guys how you decide to put your heads around that, because you then assign these people to different roles and responsibilities over here. That's how it gets connected. So let's look at here. This is just that screen kind of blown up a little bit. And this is the cruise plannings. These are all the steps in your cruise planning. And you'll see here, this is where we can decide who is responsible for that step. This is where we can decide what the predecessors are for that step. And I will say that the predecessors must be submitted prior to the next step opening up. Okay. And then these are time rules, and time rules are basically your due dates. And these are email rules, and we'll go into each of these in the next few slides. So I just wanted to show you that is a part of that screen. So here's responsibility. This is just a blow up of that line, and all you do is you click on that line. Oops, you know, that way. You click on that line, and it brings this drop down here. So you can choose anyone in a specific role to have that, to be a part of that. Or you can choose a specific person that's already in the system, right? So pretty easy to do. So that's kind of neat. And then for predecessors, again, you just click on the line, and it gives you your list of every single other workflow step that you could choose from. So again, super easy. And I will stress again, predecessors must be submitted for the next step to be opened, because this also kind of tripped us up once. All right, and then the next one is the time rules. So the time rules is, again, the due date. And so you can have a fixed date. You can say, I want this due on December 1st, but I think it makes more sense to do it relative to a workflow date, which basically opens this up, and you say, okay, I want it 14 days before the mobilization date, or I want it, 3 months or 6 months before the mobilization date. And so you can set those time rules. Again, super easy. The next thing are the email notifications. So this is, you can each, as part of your workflows, set up email notifications for your various workflow steps. So here, we've got these fields right here in these curly brackets. These are fields that you can put into your message that draw information from MFP, right? So it's the recipient is the person up here, descriptions step. I can define all these, or I have all these defined somewhere, but the URL of that step, responsible users, blah, 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 blah. So you can, what you do is you say, okay, who's going to be the recipients? And again, if you click on that, you can see the list of the roles, or you can choose a specific person. If you know that every single time you want this notification to go to Johanna Smith, then you can put her on the line. Or if you just want it to go to the project admins, you can put them on the line. So then we have, yep.
I'm sorry, we have a comment from Lauren. Can you talk about submitted versus saved?
Yes. All right, I'm just trying to think of the best place to do that, Lauren. Lauren, let's hold off on that, but
Okay.
I get your point. And if I don't get to it during the demo, tell me. I'm writing it down, okay? Because it's an important point. Okay, so we have recipients, where am I? Activation of step. So you can, again, when do you send the notification? You can say when the step is activated, when the step is done, or again, you could have a specific due date, right? And then we have, you can create your specific message and include text and then some of the fields above. So I'll just give you an example here. My responsible user in this case are the schedulers. And this is saying, oh, no, sorry, the responsible user is the PI. This is a thing I put together for the schedulers. When somebody submits an SME, this goes out. And so it says responsible user, which is the PI, has submitted SME, and it gives their ID number and then they give the project name. And then it's requesting these ships, and it's requesting funding from, and funding is the funding agency. And then it gives a link to that SME so the schedulers can see that. An example of that is here. So here's Alice Doyle, the scientist, has submitted this, and these are the ships I requested. And this is where my funding's coming from, and this is the link to my SME. And so this is all, important information to different people, and that's what you got to think about in your notification. So the ship schedulers want to know which SMEs requested their ship, so we put that on there. And then we got word from NSF. They said, well, we'd really like to know which funding agency they requested, because NSF doesn't necessarily want to look at the Gulf of Mexico Research Initiative SMEs, right? So that's just something to keep in mind as you create your notifications. And so this one is another notification we made. And this one goes out when a SME has been put on a published schedule. So you can see where some of this stuff draws information from the actual SME, and then some of this is text, right? So that is notifications. All right, so what does a PI say? Excuse me. So the PI's main view into MFP is the map, or not the map, the schedule, excuse me, in the map, and then also the science portal, right? So this is an example of what a science portal looks like. Here, the blue font shows the PI what they need to do. And if one of those steps turns red, that means that step is overdue, okay? And so if they want to create a new application, they click this new application button, and then this active application shows the items that are still in progress. So this one right here is a project that's already been put on a published schedule, and they can see the steps that are required for them to complete. And then over here, you can see this SME hasn't been completed yet. So the system is telling them you need to complete your cruise request form, okay? Now, if they click any of these blue fonts, it takes them directly to that specific step of the workflow. If they click the view workflow, they get brought back to, open this screen here. And this is a screen that shows all the steps that are available or required for cruise planning and who's responsible. And so in this case, I was the PI and I took a screenshot of my own screen. And so the thing I want to point out here is that the status here. So these are active, which means that you can get in there and do something with them by clicking this open button or going back from those blue font. These steps down here are pending, and the reason they're pending is because there are precursors that have to happen before these will open up, okay? So if you can't get to something, it's because there's a precursor that was already set.
Quick
All
question,
right.
Alice.
Go for it.
From Lynn, why is responsible user not just called PI?
Yeah, good question. Maybe because they thought it didn't necessarily have to be. I don't know, but we can ask for that change. It makes sense. I find it confusing too. So, responsible. Okay. I've written it down. All right, so from your end, you don't have a science portal, right? I mean, we could give you a science portal, but it wouldn't, that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for you as the operator, get your information from the project management module, okay? And so you can go into the project management module and search on any number of these fields that have a line under them. It's the search capabilities of this are pretty great. So you can search on initiator is PI. Again, why is that not? But it's the initiator of the SME. And then there's other fields on the other side. There's a whole bunch of fields here that I just couldn't get a whole screenshot of, but you can search on any of those. And then you will see the steps here that are available for you to view, or you can click on this ID over here and it brings up the workflow screen for that project, excuse me. And again, you'll see the steps that are available to you, and you can edit those steps that you have permission to access and edit, okay? And you'll see if you can edit them because you'll have an open button over here on the right. All right, how far are we? 30 minutes. Again, these are the active steps and they're open, and these are the steps that are pending and not yet available. Oh, wow, I already am at break time. Let's do it, because otherwise I'm gonna drive you guys crazy. Let's stop sharing. Let's take 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Oh, 181.
What was that? Does anyone have any questions so far? That would be probably a smart thing to ask.
Yes. Now, with the current cruise planner and previous cruise planning, whatever everybody had internally, sometimes we do non-NSF charters with, Korean consortium or Japanese, what have you. And it turned out that it was, for the cruise planner was just not very feasible to use with those folks. Is it critical to use the MFP in order to get those cruises going?
Why was it not feasible? I'm just curious.
For example, language barriers. Well,
I mean, I feel like if it's going to become a tool, it's pretty great to use it, right? And it kind of creates a hiccup in your planning, especially if there's other facilities involved, right? But I haven't thought of it, Max. Critical is a strong word, but I think it seems like a good idea once it's being used, right?
Right.
So, there are steps that will have to happen through MFP regardless, like the cruise participants,
Sure.
because that's R2R is, getting their data from there now. But otherwise, I mean, I guess it's up to the institution. I would encourage to try to get them to use it, but I mean, they have to, anyway, yeah, okay.
Okay, thanks.
Does
Alice,
anyone else? Go for it, Ethan.
Yeah, this looks great. I'm excited to use it. So since you're dealing with cruise participants, are you guys looking to tackle like sensitive information dealing with medical form submission and things like that?
Yeah, and so that's part 2. I'm actually going to take us into the app itself, and I'm going to go through each of the cruise planning steps. And so you will see what the cruise participant portal looks like. And it's interesting because that's another thing that they've had to develop specifically for us. So we are dealing with, we've put in the medical questions that are recommended by the medical provider, GW. And then we have only certain people will have access to that information.
Okay, so you guys are dealing with all the HIPAA stuff.
Yes.
Cool.
What do you mean? Well, tell me what you mean by that. As far as
I'm not the best person to speak to this, but I know with HIPAA, we just have to be careful about who has access to information like that.
Yes, absolutely. So there are absolute limitations to that, and there are different permissions within the system to give. Some people can have all the information. Some people can have only passport information, what's necessary for a port call, and others can have just the chief scientist would have separate information. So.
Cool, thanks.
Yep. Yeah, again, so I'm going to go through in the next section, we're going to go into the app and look at it as a scientist and go through each of the steps so you guys can see what the scientists would go through and the types of questions that we can ask from there. So do we have any other questions, like big picture questions? I was trying to kind of give you a big picture outline first. No. Okay.
Sorry. One more, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think your first slide had the 4 major steps, and at the end there was in the PCARs and all the reporting. Could you speak a little bit to where that reporting actually goes?
Where it goes. So you can your institution can decide who has access to that PCAR information and who has access to any of that stuff. And then you can set up notifications that alert you that says, you can say, I want to know about when somebody submits a PCAR. And so you can set up a notification that alerts you to that and gives you the URL, and then you can click the URL and go to see that PCAR. Does that make sense? Or you're asking are you asking where it's stored, or are you asking?
I was asking more in the bigger picture, where it goes somewhere to NSF administrators or some other organizations that review it and then say, hey, everything went great, we're going to give NSF more money next year. Or is it just an internal way of reviewing?
It'll be similar. Okay, the distribution will be similar to our current PCAR. Okay, and so right now, the funding agencies get it, the UNO's office gets it, and people at your select institution get it, essentially. We're hoping to move to an updated, right now it's just a static form like it was, but it looks prettier. We're hoping to move to a system where the PI submits their PCAR, people can look at it and review it and reply to a specific thing. So like, let's say there was something that the PI said that maybe the operator didn't agree with, or the captain didn't agree with, they can go in and write something their side of the story, or we've improved this by doing X, Y, and Z, or anything like that. So we're hoping that system, one, it doesn't force people to say excellent, 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 and not add any comments of substance, right? So they add substance when they have substance to add, as opposed to forcing them to just create a form. But we're not there yet. So does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, let's take a 5-minute break, 10-minute break, 10-minute break. Let's take a 10-minute break. So let's come back at 50. And then we will go, that'll give me a chance to get my stuff set up here, and we'll go into the app. All right, I'll be back. Setting a timer.
Alice, I have to head out.
Okay, sorry, Jules.
Oh, no, that's all right. I mean, I don't actually plan cruises anyway. I just wanted to see what it was all about.
Oh, I'm sorry you didn't get to see the demo part, but I can show you any other time. So feel free to give me a shout and we can go through it. I could see where the schedule module is important to you guys.
Yeah, the schedule
Yeah.
model is, yeah, that's when you get the export function in there, I'll be thrilled.
Yes, a better there is an export in there, but it's not.
Yeah, it just exports it as a PDF. It's really useful for me, at least, to be able to have it exported as an Apple Calendar.
Oh,
The ICS, that's the format.
yep.
So I use Google Calendar for my life. I don't use the Apple Calendar except for cruises. So I just go through and say, gimme, and it exports all the cruises, and then I have my own little view. Now I may not need to do that anymore because the whole point of the Marine Facilities Planner scheduling is that it creates that kind of a view. So maybe it won't matter, except that I get reminders. So if it's on my calendar, it'll say, "Ooh, the ship is leaving today."
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Anyway, it's a very cool view. I like it a lot.
Interesting. I'll have to ask you what that looks like sometime.
Oh, sure.
No, now we know. Okay.
Yeah, it's mainly because of the little pop-up things that happen.
Right.
Okay, heading out. Have another Zoom.
Okay. Take care. Have a great weekend. Thanks for coming.
Good job. Good job.
Oh, thank you. Where are we? Here we go. Are we close? We're close. Folks are here. All right, 51, we're late. We're gonna get started again. Hopefully people have made it back. That's kind of the weird thing. You're in a meeting and you can actually see faces have come back, and now I just see names and who knows if you're listening. But anyway, I hope you're all here. We're starting up again. I'm gonna share my screen. I've got a bunch of different accounts and things going on, so bear with me as I click around a bit here. Okay, so where we are right now, I've logged in. I am Alice Doyle from University of Washington, and I'm a scientist, okay? And I've used this lovely stack of blocks to navigate. This is how we navigate around the system, and I've navigated to my science portal, okay? So this is what I see, and I say, wow, I am a busy scientist, and I have a lot to do here, right? So any of these blue font are items that I need to do. Completing cruise requests. This one is already on a schedule. And this here, if I want to create a new SME, I click this button and I can create a new SME. Soon we hope to have a third one here, which would be if somebody wants to request equipment only. So if they need the Mach Ness or the Sentry to go on another vessel, they could use this an equipment only form here, but we're not there yet. So, and then further archive, the PI has an archive. So these are items that are complete. These are SMEs that have already been put on a scheduled cruise, okay? So this is just what the scientist sees. Just wanted to give you a view of that. Next, I'm going to go over to this. Look at that cute little girl. Okay, next I'm going here. And now I'm logged in as Alice Doyle, and I am an employee of the University of Washington. Okay, so I've logged in. It gave me my homepage, which is our lovely map. And then again, I use my navigation button here, and I go over to project management. So in project management, what it shows me, I'm in the test system now, so don't pay too much attention here, but when I'm a UW employee, it will show me all of the SMEs that are either funded or pending, and it'll also show me any cruise planning workflows that are associated with UW ships, okay? So I just want to get that in your head. So you're not going to see, everyone's not going to see everything from everyone else, okay? So Ethan wouldn't see things for Woods Hole. He should only see things that are for the Sikuliak, cruise planning wise, but you can see the other SMEs. So this screen here, it's a little bit overwhelming, but the search functions are fantastic. So if you happen to know your identifier, which is your ID, you can search by that. You can search by which workflow you're looking for, an SME, or are you looking for cruise planning? You can search for the project name. You can search for the PI or their affiliation, the funding status, and then cruise location, equipment. This is a little deceiving right now, but you can search on equipment, and then status. So this is something that caught me off guard. So you can see here that the system automatically filters for only active workflows. So I went in here the other day, our other system, to find an old SME that had already been archived, and I couldn't find it in here. And it's because I was only looking at active. I needed to be looking at completed also. Okay, so just keep that in the back of your head. Any SMEs that have been put on a published schedule are deemed complete. They did their job, they requested the ship time, and so they're complete, and that's how you'd find them. So I will say that if you ever have issues finding things in the system, check your filters. The filters are super powerful, but they're also limiting. So I've been caught off guard by that a few times. So let's see, let's pick our project. I'm going to click on my workflow here. This is the one I'm working on. And we're going to just go through each of these, not in order, but we're going to go through each of these so you can have an idea of what we're looking at, okay? So first we're going to do this. Let's start here. The detailed cruise requirements, your cruise questionnaire. This one is almost done, but there's a couple things here. So normally these boxes aren't checked, and they get checked as they move through. So the cruise, I will say that think of this as like their SME on steroids, right? So all the information that they put in the system with their SME is transferred into here. And then now we have the ability to add sections and also add more questions. So this is just general from the schedule. Project contacts, again, it brings in everything from the SME, and they can add information here. So thing to note, they can click save next, but to get to the next one, they do have to complete the required fields on that screen, okay? So that's the project contacts. Project information, again, this is all information. These are questions that were on the SME, so research project description, their summary of their field work, their general disciplines. And again, they can change all this now or add to it if they choose to. Funding source, again, from their SME. Cruise location, so there's preferred mobilization and demob, again, pulled from their SME. General location pulled from their SME. And now we're hoping that this nifty tool that's within the cruise planning can be used. Oh, go ahead. Did someone say something? No. Okay. We're hoping that this nifty tool can be used by the PIs in the cruise planning phase to truly map out all of their projects, sampling stations or sampling areas or transects in the cruise planning process. So I guess big picture, the hope is that when they submit their SME, they at least give us a few workstations so that the schedulers know generally where they're working and how long transits will be and that sort of stuff. And then they revisit it now in the project, in the cruise planning phase, and they add a lot more detail. So this tool, if you haven't seen it, you can actually use this import button and you can import waypoints from a template. And so, gosh, we had one, the Gulf, where there was like 100 different stations. And so it would all get imported onto here. The scientists can go in and they can say, actually, I want to transit at a slower speed here. They can change the speed. If they know they want to be at the sampling station for 2 days, they can do that. And then all of this information goes around and it kind of, it leads to their total time. And so they can say, wow, we've got too many stations here, or we can't do all this work, or we can do all this work, or that sort of thing.
Did I ask if you were on RV?
Tony, are you talking? Oh, okay. So the other cool thing about this is that it shows you the EEZs that the PI will be working in, and then obviously alert you to what permits you might have to request. Okay, so this is a super neat tool. It's part of the cruise planning process here. It's also its own standalone module, which I'll touch on later. But the hope is the PIs can go and import, they can import from an Excel spreadsheet. You can export from here. So if you want to send it to the bridge, that's pretty cool too. Or they can just add random points on the map or transects. Okay. Again, you can add layers just like in the research planner, you can add different layers. Okay, so that is the cruise location. And then it does this, whoops. You can also, if you, just about everything's editable in here. So if you click on these little triangles, just start clicking things. If you click on that, you can actually edit this waypoint to, or any of these waypoints, or you can get rid of waypoints using the trash can. Any remarks are there. Okay, does everyone get that? Then you click that and it does its location analysis. And it says, look at that. We've got 3 stations that are in the EEZ of the Canadian EEZ. So that should raise a red flag, like, hey, we probably need a clearance. This is kind of cool too. It also tells you the depths of all your stations. So that's kind of a good tool for all of us. Next. All right, I'm going to actually flip over to here for that. Only because we don't have all the questions in the test system. So this is now in the live system, and this is the pooled and portable equipment section. And this section is very customizable by you guys. But obviously we want to keep certain questions the same for everyone, like OPSEC, because OPSEC knows what they need, right? Or Alvin knows what they need. But other things like CTDs, if you need to ask it a certain way, each institution can ask those questions. So let's give you a few examples. Let's go to portable vans. Oh my, I want a portable van from the NSF van pool. Click. Okay, well, which van do you want? So you can choose these vans. I'm going to use that. And have you requested this from them, and list any additional equipment required in that van? Or let's go to, here's water column sampling. Well, maybe we'll go here. Bottom sampling. I'm going to do some sediment coring, and it's going to be piston coring. And these questions are questions I got specifically from the MARSAM group. So obviously we want to ask the questions that they need. And then let's say CTD. Again, here's a whole bunch. The standard Thompson configuration is this. Will that work for you? Yes. But obviously, Scripps doesn't want to talk about the standard Thompson configuration, so they would ask us a different question. And you can choose to use somebody else's question, or you can create new questions of your own. So these are all the different questions that the UW asks specifically about the CTD. What other one? Let's see. we've got mockness again. You can click mockness and you can choose the various questions. So again, these questions are very customizable by you guys. Okay, that is the portable and pooled and portable equipment. Let me just undo this because I don't want, there we go. All right, so we're going to go back to our test system so I don't screw anyone up anymore. And then we're going to go, to ship fitted equipment. Oh shoot, let's go on here actually, sorry. Let's do it on this live site again. So ship fitted equipment is very similar to pooled and portable equipment where we have questions, although I will say we're going to, these we have to ask the same question. So for each equipment. So if there's something that you feel that you need, here's a echo sounder, please describe your requirements. ADCP, describe your project's requirements. So you'll see here that the green checkbox, this project is on the Thompson, and only the items that have the green checkbox next to it under the Thompson are on the Thompson. Does that make sense? Sorry, that was a roundabout way of saying it. So again, if they click on an item, they will be asked to give more information. And we can control what questions are asked in there. So if you see, if there's not enough questions asked, what's this one here? Technical staff may support. Anyway, I got feedback on these questions from some of you guys, but I'm happy to, look at this again and revisit it. And if you think more questions need to be asked, we can absolutely do that. Okay, so those are the questions for the ship fitted equipment, and that's stuff that's specific to that ship that's not going to move, right? All right, let's go back over here. And then we go, whoops, cancel. Let's go to next. And so then this is the section on user supplied equipment. So these two questions are specifically asked in the SME, and anything that's from the SME will get transferred over, and the hope is that they will give you more information at this go around, right? And fill it all in. How many van pool or how many storage vans is your equipment ITAR or EAR, required EAR or ITAR license, yes or no? And I love it, we have a, I don't know, not sure. Then we have this cruise checklist, which is kind of a catch-all for things that didn't fit into the other categories. So it's loading, offloading, and port services. It's science party, shipboard deck experience, electrical power requirements. I feel like we could probably reorder these. Internet, telephone, and radio. There's been talk, and we can discuss this about pulling the internet into its own, section over here so that it's more prominent. But this is where they would capture if they need more internet capabilities. Scuba, small boat. So it is real catch-all, and maybe we need to reorder that. I'm happy to take feedback on that. Science parties, antennas. So we go everywhere from scuba diving to internet, which seems kind of random to me, but so happy to hear feedback on that. The next one, environmental impact. So these are questions actually that the UK asks, and they make a lot of sense, especially when you're looking at getting clearance requests, but it's environmental impact questions, yes, no, and I don't know, your choice is there. They have to all be filled in. Again, these come from the SME, so if they have to fill them all out in the SME, and their answers will just be populated here. Return samples, so these are what they're going to be sending home. And then hazardous material, I feel like those should be in a different order, but this is adding new hazardous material, and I believe, yeah, so there's a lot of stuff in here. I haven't played with this enough to know whether you can add just anything, but I will ask that question.
Alice, once that list is built up, would there be an export function for the information on this page?
That's a good question. There should be, huh? Yeah, okay. Or hazmats. You can export the whole thing as a PDF, but I see your point about just creating a table of all this information. That would be great. Okay, thanks. Let's just add something. One. Okay, so that's has materials. What about radioactive materials again? So this is the site. Okay, so originally we started and we put this in this form here, but we realized quickly that this needs to be its own workflow step, because this has to happen a lot sooner than you have to have all this other information. So this particular screen is going to get pulled out and be its own workflow step. So you can start this, 6 months ahead of time. But this asks for the lead user, their radio RSO, any general information, and then you can keep track of all the documentation around their radioisotope use, any sorts of training logs or any sort of approvals and all that sort of stuff can be put here, so that again, everybody can access it. The tech on the ship can say, oh yeah, they are approved to use this much and all that sort of stuff. So that's going to be pulled out into its own workflow step. Compressed gases. So again, Ethan, this would probably be a great export too, right? Compressed.
Yeah, and I was wondering with the radioactive tab, if there's anything in there to trigger whether there's a need to do a swab before or after a cruise.
What do you mean a trigger? Tell me what you mean by
that. If we need to swab the ship before or after a cruise, if isotopes will be used, it would be really nice to have that as part of the radioactive section.
Okay. Right, and so we could put some sort of notification on there, right? Okay, next is the cost estimate and the summary. And then here's, Lauren, where I'm going to say my speech here. So the way these guys, the system is set up right now is that when things are submitted, they get locked, okay? And that doesn't mean that nobody can open it, because some people can, and we can probably give, one person from each institution ability to do that. But the reason that it gets locked is because it often, when you submit it, it triggers other things. So I don't know that this is the best solution for our community, simply because things do need to get changed. And so, but it's where we are right now, okay? So if I click submit, it will trigger other things to happen, but it'll also lock the PI out of it. So I feel like this is something where it depends on your operation, but if I was planning a cruise, I would want them to save it. We have a cruise planning meeting. We go through the whole document together, right? And talk through it and think of any things and potentially update it. And then finally, it wouldn't get submitted until later down the line. Okay. So the reason this is like coming to mind is because for UW, they said, oh, well, we want to have this form submitted before they can submit cruise participants. But then they realized, well, wait a second, the cruise participant, not myself included, but the cruise participant step won't open up until this is submitted, but they don't want to submit it because they're still making changes to it, right? So you just have to be really aware of precursors and saving versus submitting. So our solution was to save but don't submit when you want to go back and change it. Again, this is what we have right now, but I'm sure we should try this and see what happens, and then and decide if this works for us or not. For now, though, I am going to submit this application because, did someone else have something? We're not good. Okay, so you can see now that I have submitted this, and I can view it. I have rollback ability only because I've got supreme powers. Rollback just means you open it back up. But you will also notice that now some of these steps down here have become active, right? So they had the precursor of filling out that form, all right? So that's that. Portable equipment, we did that. Submit that. Okay, let's go to diplomatic clearance. We're just going to look at these. Diplomatic clearance status. So Canada had already listed that and put it in there, and it's to be, the status is to be submitted. Okay, and once, if I get clearance, then I can click on this button and say it's submitted, approved, or denied. Okay, so this is just a place for the PI and the schedulers who usually submits these forms to keep track of the various clearances on that cruise. Back. So that's the diplomatic clearance. And there's also a second part with diplomatic clearance. Oh, I'm not sure why this is pending. Let me see if I can find one that's open. There must be a precursor that I don't know about. Where is it? Do you see it? Diplomatic, here. Let's open that. I just wanted to show you what the step looks like. So you can click diplomatic clearance is not required and submit. And once you do that, then the step closes out. Okay, so that's what happens when you click submit. So then it doesn't, you don't see the red thing. Actually, we're just going to do that here. The cruise location is not in a foreign, EEZ, or other. Actually, it's not my cruise, so I'm on the live side. I'm going to wait. But anyway, you can say no diplomatic clearance is needed, or if it is needed, then this is a place where you can keep track of the documentation sent. I was warned, and I guess I would warn that you probably just want to put the main form in there. Often these clearances request like 10 trillion different attachments, and if you want to put them in here, you can, but I think it is a duplicate of the information in RATS, which is the State Department system, but I know a lot of folks are keeping track of the documentation on their own portals anyway. So this is a place that you can put it. Attachments, pretty darn straightforward. It's a section where anyone can upload documents that they want to upload. Again, if you submit it, it's going to lock it. So you just want to save. What else we have? Cruise planning meeting. Where are they? So here UW asked for a second cruise planning meeting. So they have two. You can have one, you can have none. And this is a place where you can say when the meeting was or is going to be, and then you can drag or drop any sort of, like if you had meeting notes from there, you can add those there. What else? Ship's deck plans. And that. Your project is bringing equipment, so you can upload if you have a complex cruise, or you can ask NDSF to upload what they think is going to be the deck plan for that trip. And the system will take, I must not have uploaded it here, guys, sorry. Let's go back over here, workflow. Deck plan, let's see if it's on here. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, well, there is we can upload ship's deck plans to the application, so we can have those available to them. Let's do the start here. Hazmat and rad waste, again, that is where it's supposed to please use the attached template to disconnect us any hazardous or radioisotope waste that your project will produce. We will be producing how this will be handled on board and plan to return to your home institution, blah, blah, blah. And it says, please note the science party's responsibility to move all of this stuff. And you can say, I don't have any, or they can upload their plan. Oh, okay. The next one is the participant portal. Okay, so the participant portal is the newest, and I know Lauren we've had a few issues just lately because they've done some cool stuff specifically for us, and then anyway, it's a long story, but how the participant portal works, let's go back to me, the PI here, or not, here. Oh, here I am. So I'm the PI, and I'm going to get my cruise participants. So I have this wonderful team from the UNL's office that's going on my cruise. So I can add participants and I can import them from a template. So you can download an Excel file and you can just have, it's like first name, last name, role and email, I think is all there is. Yep. And the roles are based on the roles from the cruise personnel manifest. So they are the same, or they can go in and add participants separately, right? Person by person. So once they are added to a cruise, a notification goes out to that person to says, go in and fill out your personal information. Okay. And I can see that. Let's see if we can see that real quick. UW. Here's an example. Where did it go? Here it is. No, that's not it. That's New York Times. Here it is. So here's an example. This is to remind you that your personal details have not been provided. Well, this was obviously, I sent myself a reminder. And so it sends them this, and they can click this link and go directly to their portal and see their participant portal and put in their information. So anytime, like, you're getting close to the end, a PI can go click. Where am I? I'm going to send me a reminder again. A reminder has been sent. And it looks just like the one that you just saw. So instead of, how do we want to do this? Let's just go to the PDF, just easier right now. So this is what the participant portal looks like. There's various sections. Across the top here, you can see the different cruises that this person is participating in. There's their general information, date of birth, TWIC card, all these things. Again, we kind of got input from all over the place to get this. And you can have a copy of information here. You can save this information for future cruises if you choose to do so. So that's section 1. Section 2 is the medical information. Again, it's not very much, but this is all that GWMMA is saying you need. You don't need a lot of details, especially when you're doing emergency medicine stuff. So this is what they've requested. Some institutions ask for a copy of their medical insurance card, so you can add that there. Again, you can see for future cruises. And then next of kin. And then the next one is, you can have, this is where they can put specific documents for like your liability waiver. We're going to make sure that each ship puts the civility at sea videos. And you can either choose to have them upload a signed file, or you can choose to have them click a button that says, I agree, and I've acknowledged that I read all this sort of stuff. Okay. So there's 2 different options here. The one thing I realized, it would be great if we could also just link to a website, which we can't do yet, but that's absolutely possible. So that's their documents. And then submit is just basically a review of all their information. And so then they click submit and their stuff is submitted. Okay, I am nearing the end again. Let's go one more place. I just wanted to show you one more plug. I don't know if you guys were here before, for the research planner. And I'm plugging this because it's a tool for you guys, but it's also a tool for the PIs, right? To get them used to, it's a great tool that's here that they can use to help plan their cruises. And they don't, they don't have to have an SME in the system or anything to use this research planner. It's there for everyone. So you can click on things over here, mooring, oh, it's going to be here. And then you can do transacts. You can do research areas. And then this says, oh, well, if you can do suggest order over here, and it looks at the most logical order to do it, which is what we did. Import, export, all this sort of stuff. So I'm making a plug for the research planner again, just because I want folks to know that this tool is out there. Okay. And then that's about all I have, folks. So do we have any questions? I want you to know again that this is a start. You guys can see all this. Let's do this. If you have questions, I'd love to talk about it now. It's pretty early, so we've got plenty of time. But this is just a start, and it's a work in progress. And I want feedback, right? We've got UW has been working in there. Thank you, UW, for being our beta testers, and it's been going pretty well. I will say we had some hiccups with the cruise participant portal, but we're getting there. The goal, of course, is to have everyone on the same page and talking to each other. And that's like between institutions. If Script needs to send their mock nest to the Sekuliak, then they can, assign it to that cruise. Or if the van pool needs to send it somewhere, they can assign their van to that cruise, and that operator can then see all the shipping information and all that sort of stuff. So there are really huge capabilities here, and the developers love to do like cool stuff. So if you have ideas, and as we kind of work into this and go, it's a slow process of getting people integrated into it. And our step right now is to get you guys in and into the cruise planning section of it. And then once we have good cruise planning workflows for everyone, we can get the inventory management sections going and the facilities involved and that sort of stuff. So that's all I have. I am happy to answer questions.
Hi, Alice. I have questions.
Great.
That was
I
great.
can count on you, Ethan.
What's that?
I can count on you. It's good.
I have a couple questions. First off, I was wondering, would it be possible to briefly show us, you said the pages for like ship fitted equipment and portable equipment, those are customizable.
Do you really want to see that?
Could you show us the page where you're actually working with customizing those things?
Yeah, let me just log in. Where do I want to log in? Think about where I want to be here. Okay, so that,
You might want to share your screen again.
Yeah. Just 1 second. Sorry, I'm just getting my head around what I'm doing here. What's the best place to be? I just don't want to get my
While Alice is doing that, this is Lauren. We have been using this for a couple cruises so far as a test, and it's been a learning experience for us as well as the PIs, but the system is great. I think initially it's a little intimidating for the PI when they see that long list of things that they need to walk through for the detailed cruise planning questionnaire, whatever we're going to call it. Anything's better than the draft supply agreement, which is what it was to start with. But it's taken a little bit of hand holding, but part of that's been a learning experience for me too, and for us as a team here at UW. So the fact that it is customizable, you can lay out the workflow in any order you want to, and add your own timeline to that. It's really great that way. That part is, apart from the SME and the post cruise, that section where you're doing the cruise planning is really adaptable for what you're used to and what your university wants to do. I think the intimidation comes from the completeness of it, but that completeness is helping you get the best cruise plan you can in place before the cruise. So I'm really encouraged by it. It's been interesting. There's some interesting stumbling blocks along the way that we've encountered, but Alice has been extraordinary in helping us clear those, and the programmers too. So huge kudos to them.
Thank you very much, Lauren, for that. And I think that's a great assessment, right, of it all. And I appreciate your patience as we work through a few of these things. So, okay, I'll be back in 2 seconds. 1 second. Okay, back. Ethan, here I will share my screen. All right, in project management, thinking over here in these 3 dots, you get ground data. They like the term ground data. So equipment questions are your pooled and portable equipment, and your ship fitted equipment is your ship fitted equipment questions. So equipment questions, let's go here first. You know what, now that I'm thinking about this, I'm sorry, just so I don't mess up let's go to the test system. I don't think I have access here. I gotta log out. Who am I? That one. So this doesn't have the questions we have in there already, so just be aware of that. But I'm just showing you I can do whatever I want on this one and it doesn't matter. So if we do equipment questions and I say aircraft, I can add other equipment here. And then let's say here within this, so this is manned aircraft, I can choose specifically what workflows it should be a part of. So if your ship, you know, here I could put it on the cruise planning module workflow for UW, if they can handle manned aircraft. Here, let's do one that's actually relevant. Portable winch, you know, sailors and profiles, water column, CTD, here we go. Manage, okay. So here's the name that's displayed. Who's responsible? You can put a responsible person in there, although I'm not sure how that's going to work with our system because we've got so many different people responsible for that, but I could see it being useful for, say, the land pools, right? I don't even know what plan list is. Workflow is you can choose which ships to put this piece of equipment on, right? So who's cruise planning workflow. And then for things, if let's say it's the Jason can't work on certain ships, so we can say specifically what ships that piece of equipment can be on. And so these are questions that are already in the system. If you want to edit a question, now you got to remember, if you edit a question, you're going to be editing the question for any workflow that's in this category. So if you want to edit it, you either have to make sure that everyone else in that group wants to edit it to like you like it, or you make sure that it's specific to you. You create your own question. Okay. So here's the question: select AC bird configuration. You can put notes next to that question. You can choose what type of button you want or answer you want. You can create all your answers. And then you can say whether it's mandatory. And you can say which workflows you want this to be a part of. Okay, so if it's a specific question to the Sikuliak and only Sikuliak has it, then you'd put it on yours. But if it's generally like the CTD, you know, you could put it on it could be on everybody's. Okay, so that's the portable instrument questions. Do you have questions there, Ethan?
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to see what the pages look like.
Okay, and then so for the ship fitted equipment, it's here. And this is a little bit of a large page, I will admit. So we've got the different ship fitted equipment here. Again, we can add new things. So just let me know. And then it goes across the top of our ships and whether that piece of equipment is on those ships. So again, you can go all the way over and you can click there. Right now, there's one question associated with that. If you click this, you can edit all this information as to who has which, but I think I might be the only one that can do that. And then manage is you can ask further questions. So again, new question, it's very similar to the other one. You can choose, you know, the question, notes, output, like what kind of question is it, a, you know, yes, no, or a multiple choice or whatever. And then whether it's mandatory and which workflows you want that a part of. Okay. This is another one that's by ship, but you can have portal documents by ship. So these are specific documents that are per ship. This is where you control, it's not here yet, but this is where you would be able to control the documents to be associated with the cruise participants. So, okay, other questions? Ethan.
Well, I just had one more question. Hopefully it'll be quick. So this may be unique for Sekuliak, I'm not sure or not, but for cruise planning, when we do like our Arctic trips up in the ice, that for us, that triggers the, sort of this whole other set of questions or requirements that we have for the PIs. And so I'm just kind of wondering how to deal with that. When we don't do those kinds of trips, we don't want to prompt the PIs to have those requirements for cruise planning. So I don't know if there's the ability to have like a module that you can put into place for certain cruises that add certain requirements or cruise planning aspects to it, and not have that module in place when you're not doing those cruises.
Yes, so I'm sure we can, Ethan. There's a couple ways. I mean, I'm sure the developers would be like, well, let's have it triggered if the cruise plan goes north of blah, 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 right? Or an easy way to do it would be to have it a part of yours the whole time and just you go in and close it out before they could even do anything with it. Does that make sense? Prior to. Yeah, so let's talk, because I want to understand exactly what questions those are.
Perfect.
Okay, okay, so yeah, I want to understand, Ethan, let's talk about that.
Well,
So,
she like sent the prior email and I couldn't really tell if it were.
I'm muting him. So yeah, let's talk about it, and let's send me what those are if you can, or if you want to have a phone conversation about it, I'm happy to, and we can figure out what that could be, but it's obviously going to be another step in that workflow.
Yeah, I'll send you our the link for our ops site that we use for cruise planning, and you can see how that works for us.
Okay, super. Thank you. All right, Lee.
Yes, I apologize if this is a question that's been answered or something already. So without a login, you can view the schedules, correct? That's
correct.
You can view ship schedules with no login required.
Correct.
Is there any type of ship informational component that is also available without login? I'm thinking I'm thinking stuff specific to Healy is one of them. So maybe it's something to take question to take more offline, but I just don't know what information is accessible without logging in.
The only information that's accessible is the same the same information that's accessible with our current system, which is their request, right? So there shouldn't be, they don't have access to project management or any of that sort of stuff, so they wouldn't have anything else.
When they like just someone logging in is only, yeah, you have to log in to get to any of the project management type stuff.
Yep, and we have to give you permission for that. Even the scientists don't have that, right? So most Joe Schmo scientists, sorry, I didn't mean that meanly. Most scientists will just have pretty much access to the research planner, the schedule module, and the science portal. So that too doesn't have any in-depth information. None of that has a lot of in-depth information about the ships either, right?
But the PI would, or the planner would, once there's a crew during this cruise planning process, when they're going in to answer those questions.
So the PI would access their workflow through their science portal. And the planners would access it through project management.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Other questions? You guys are pretty quiet.
There are a couple of questions in the chat, Alice, from Jasmine. Is there an API available yet for us to start trying out?
There is. Jasmine, let's talk. I know Eric Grubel has had, I don't know if Eric, you want to speak to that, if he's still here. he has got it working so that for now he can sync up with the cruise planner. Is Eric still here? No.
It doesn't look like it.
No, he doesn't. Okay. Jasmine, let's talk. Send me an email, please, and I will write it down.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's also a question from Max. When will the current cruise planner be deactivated?
Well, we don't have that. We don't have an end of life date. So I don't have a good answer for you there. It's not going to be in a month or two. How about that? And I would love by the end of this year, end of 2022, that would be a great goal in my head. If we could get all on board, that would be great. Do you have concerns, Max?
No, I don't. It was just because, STRS was, deactivated at some point. Can't see that information anymore. I was just trying to get an idea of when that would be. No, I have no concerns. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we will definitely talk to folks. We would never just turn it off. So yeah, we would definitely talk to folks. And STRS, the information is still there. So if you're having trouble getting to it, let us know, because that should still be open. You can't edit it anymore, but it should still be there.
Yeah, yes, sure. It's still open, but you can't plan on STRS for 2022 anymore, or 2023, right?
Right. Yeah, all the information's in MFP for 2022 and beyond.
Roger that. Thank you.
So when you say, hey, this is Sarah, when you say that the ship schedule information will be available without a login, I imagine the Healy might want that not to be available. Is that going to be controllable?
Well, the Healy's kind of an anomaly right now. We're not really sure. I don't know. I guess we could just not put them on the list. Yeah, sure. But the Healy hasn't made a lot of push to put their schedule in here, so can't be accessible. I will write that down though. They haven't, yeah, there hasn't been a lot of action on the part of the Healy with scheduling yet. But that is no
surprise.
Yeah. And now with Forcucci's departure, that's even less people there. So, what else? Anyone else have questions, comments? If people are interested in getting started or even having a look around, I can get you guys access. I am happy to help kind of with UW. I went through and I got questions, made sure the right questions were in there. So I'm happy to help move that along. Or just if you want to start, we would love it, this to catch on. It's just there's so many capabilities here. And so I want to push a little bit, but can't push too hard, but for people to start using it. And so I encourage you to reach out to me and we can figure out some sort of plan for kind of looking at it. And I know there is some initial work, but Lauren, it wasn't too bad, right, to get it going?
No, it wasn't. I mean, you had done a really good job of going into our online cruise planner questionnaire and populating the MFP with it. So it didn't take much editing at all.
Yeah, so thank you, Lauren. So I'm happy to give other folks, other institutions that sort of help to get this going. So I encourage you to reach out and I encourage you to start looking at it and we'll see what we can do. Okay. That's all I have. And that's good. Hour 40. You guys can have a little break before the next. Oh, John Haverback. Is there interest in integrating with income? And I don't know. I'm sure there's interest. It sounds like a great idea. John Haverback has a question in the chat. And I know, John, I think you had talked to the developers, so you probably know more about that than I do.
Yeah, so if you're familiar with Eduroam, you can log into Eduroam with your university's account. So it's the same federated login. And if we integrated that with this, you could just use your existing university login for identity.
Right.
And I think that would be hugely beneficial. I mean, that we're talking about a federated service here anyway. what I see being more of a requirement from cybersecurity moving forward is the need to identify who accesses what information when. And that might be something we have to audit moving forward, which kind of speaks to Sarah's concern about, tracking who has access to crew schedules and things like that. So I don't need to spend a lot of time on it, but it would be something maybe we should dive into a little bit at some point.
Okay. I've written it down, but you're going to have to keep me honest and keep me on that.
It's not trivial, so I'm not going to try and say it's easy, but
okay.
I do think it's important.
Right.
But once it's done, it's easy.
Yeah, I will say if you guys are used to the the European rules or laws on personal information is a lot. They're stricter than the US, and so all of the software and the personal information is follows the European
GDPR.
laws. I don't know. Yes, whatever you think. But the European laws, so I feel pretty comfortable with that. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go. I look forward to hearing from all of you soon too. I know, I mean, we're coming into like the winter months when, I don't know, maybe people have time. I'm not sure, but I would love to make it as easy as possible for all of you to do it. So, and I'm happy to put some time in on my end to make it easy. So look forward to hearing from you.
Excellent presentation, Alice. Thank you so much.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, Alice.
Thank you. And if you have more questions, if you hang up and have another questions, feel free to contact me. We're here.
Thanks, Alice.
Thank you, Stian. Good to see you.
Thanks, Alice. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Thanks, Doug Ricketts. Doug, you're one that I think we're going to have to talk about because